So on behalf of Wayne, Sarah, myself, and the entire Food People team, I'd like to welcome you all to this, what I think you'd all agree is a beautiful assembly room here at Shoreditch Town Hall for our 4th annual Food and Beverage Trends event. This is a room that has hosted all sorts of grand dinners, royalty. The inquest into the final victim of Jack the Ripper was held in this room, believe it or not, as well as boxing matches attended by the Cray twins, and somewhat less controversially, our food and drink trends for 1819 today. So there's a lot of history being made in this room. We've got an action-packed agenda for you today, lots of thought-provoking and we hope inspiring content for you. Really an opportunity for you to step out of the day job and to reflect. There'll be lots of really directional trends input, but also take inspiration from the tangential inspiration, the room, some of the speakers and content that perhaps isn't related to you, conversations that you have, and perhaps even conversations that you overhear as well. Today is about inspiring and informing in equal measures. In a moment I'll run through the agenda, but first a couple of points on housekeeping. In terms of loos and cloakrooms, I'm sure you found those there at the bottom of the stairs as you came in. From a fire point of view, for those of you upstairs, the exits are at the back and those will take you downstairs and you'll end up on the street. There'll be 2 muster points either side of the front of the building, and for those of you sitting downstairs, the exits are where you came in, straight down the stairs and out to the front, and you can all, well, follow me. You'll find that there are I think there are other post-its and pens on tables. If not, I'm sure you'll have writing devices anyway, but take lots of notes, take lots of inspiration from today. Questions, we've decided to keep the agenda fairly packed, but as last year, we took lots of questions via email and social media, so please fire those questions through to us, and as always, we'll respond to those. We'll be asking for your feedback at the end of the day. One piece of feedback from last year was we couldn't see the screen. So I'm hoping everyone can see the screen. All the presentations will be available on Trend Hub next week. The Wi-Fi code should be on your table. Network name TFP Trends 17. And the password, I'm in the know, no apostrophe. And please photograph, tweet, Instagram until your heart is content. We're very happy about that. Don't be put off by the number of cameras in the room. There's a lot of video going on. We've got the BBC in the room as well, who are doing a short documentary on trends, so there might be a few of you that they want to ask some questions to later on. We've got comfort water down here, so please do help yourself. There's a phone charging point just over there on the left-hand side, on your, right-hand side, for you to charge your phone during the course of today. And we've got our very own Tony Hart here on the stage. He's there to record today visually and obviously to keep the speakers company as well. We're delighted to be in this amazing room today, but as Wayne alluded to, once 12 o'clock comes, we need everybody from upstairs to come down, and you'll sit the other side of the tables down here for lunch and then go back up in the afternoon. But there will be people upstairs to coordinate all of that. So, in terms of the agenda, lots and lots to get through, as I alluded. The day will be punctuated by a fabulous lunch by Clove Club, which I know we're certainly all excited about, and I'm sure you are too. This morning we're going to be talking about the trends framework, which I'll come on to shortly, the social and cultural trends. We'll also be deep diving into the world of health and wellness, where we have 3 speakers that are going to talk about that. We'll then follow lunch with a piece on coffee, the mega trend of do no harm, and then the mega trend of I'm choosing, and some complementary speakers to go with those as well. And then we'll be finishing off with a piece on cuisine. So that's how the day is structured. And I've got a clicker you have to press very, very hard to get the page to move on. So let's get on to the trends framework and talk trends. The team have worked tirelessly over the last 6 months and have done an epic job to process literally tens of thousands of pieces of foresight that have laddered up into the 1819 trend prediction. And by way of an introduction, as we did last year, I'd like to show you a short video that brings all of those to life.
The world of food and drink and the forces that impact upon it are evolving at pace. So keeping at the forefront of trends is more relevant than ever before. At The Food People, we've used powerful trends analysis sourced from across our unique global trends network to define a trends framework for 2018 to 2019 from 4 macro-cultural trends, 12 food and drink megatrends with over 100 sub-trend manifestations. As we take you through this trend framework, think about what it means for your brand, business or innovation pipeline. Experimental freedom. There is no set way to eat anymore, apart from with your mouth. Flavours are mingling together, sweet is eaten with savoury, restaurants are no longer permanent and formal is out the window. We still want good food and good service, just in a more experimental and inventive way. Our food choices are an expression of self, and we want to live creatively, free from limitations. I'm choosing. What we eat can affect how we feel, but does it matter what we eat and when we eat it? Lines are blurred across everything in food and drink. Cuisines are clashing, our larders have gone global. Time is limited for everyone, and anything that can ease our hectic schedules will be popular. I'm choosing is another opportunity for consumers to show their identity, making a bold statement through their choices and desires. Small batch beautiful. In a fast-paced world, we look to food for its quality and crafted brilliance. Food and drink that's been produced with love and care can be fully appreciated for all of the time that's gone into producing it. Trades are back in fashion, and we are recognising the importance of farmers, blenders and butchers and their special skills. Stirring the senses. When we eat and drink, we use all our senses, not just taste. Rather than leaving our senses passive, chefs and mixologists are using them as part of the process to create new and exciting food and drink experiences. Kitchens are moving into the dining room and plates are changing into bowls. Flavours and temperatures are affecting what we eat and how we eat it. Nothing is as it seems. Insta-fun. Food is fun, stuffiness is not. Bright colours, silly names and things that we thought we couldn't eat, but are in fact edible. Anything goes if it makes our food look pretty enough to be photograph worthy. After all, it's going to be recorded for all of time once we put our images onto Instagram for the whole world to see. Treasured time. Good things come to those who wait. Never a truer saying. The skills of food producers should be celebrated. Things from the past are coming back into fashion. From the depths of history, we see standards rising in service and attitude. Production techniques and recipes are being revisited, examined and brought back to life, maybe with a bit of help from modern ideas. Food hugs. Who doesn't want something warm and comforting to take us to a happy place? Perhaps something that is reminiscent of childhood happy times, either from our own past or someone else's. It doesn't matter where these food hugs come from. We just want to be soothed by our food. Life can be tough. We want to feel secure, if only for the time it takes to eat that meal. So, what is true? So many untruths have been told in the food industry. Now we want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. No more bogus claims, no more lies, just cold, hard facts. We want someone to believe in. We're willing to trust others so long as they can prove their honesty. Healthier for longer. We all want to live forever, and in an effort to do so, we're beginning to truly understand the link between our consumption and our longevity. We've always known it, but now we're really appreciating it. Of course beetroot is better than booze. But now we're putting our money where our mouth is and choosing to buy vegetables over alcohol. Health-conscious consumers are keeping a watchful eye out for the next life-promoting elixir, constantly striving to find the latest health trend that can promise us a holy grail-esque opportunity. Harnessing Mother Nature. The environment should be important to us all. If we don't look after it, we won't survive. Seasons are back in fashion. Food waste and food miles are something for us all to be aware of. Frozen food is back and it's better. As we look for the best waters and freshest air, we also need to clean our planet. Do no harm. We need to be more aware of the world we live in. We should think about where our food comes from, the animals that provide it, and the people who produce it. They all deserve a good life. There are many ways we can improve the world we live in, and both consumer and industry need a shift in attitude to ensure we do no harm. Generosity to others. Paying it forward is the current buzz phrase of the moment. Millennials and Gen Z are inspired by companies wanting to pay it forward or give it back, and the food and drink industry can't escape the scrutiny of today's youth. No longer wanting to be selfish like generations past, these forward-thinking young people are about helping each other and supporting communities, either at home or abroad. We hope you found this introduction to the food and drinks trends for 2018 to 2019 inspirational and informative. To deep dive further into the trends most relevant to your brand or business, visit thefoodpeople.co.uk.
So I hope that provides a useful context, and what we're going to do is explore some of those mega trends in more detail and then deep dive into those three of them further as we go into the rest of the session. So the book is here, huge stack of them over there, a couple of pallets worth on that table ready for you to take away together with a fold-out infographic at the end of the day. Those of you that have seen and worked with the book before will notice a few changes this year. So we've taken all of the megatrends and associated sub-trends by megatrend and plotted those on the four-phase evolution of innovation curve to give you some kind of context as to where they are in their evolution. Obviously, we've done that from a global perspective, and we're looking holistically at food and drink. So if you were to look at specific categories or geographies, you are going to see some differences there, but that will at least give you some kind of indicator as to where they are in their evolution. And then we've also looked at not only the social and cultural macro trends, but the social and cultural driving forces behind each of the food and drink megatrends, so that you can really get into the why behind these particular trends are manifesting, which is becoming increasingly important, I know, for all of you. So there it is, the trends map for 18-19, 12 megatrends, and over 100 sub-trends that sit behind them. Amelia is going to come on after me and talk about the social and cultural trends. And what I'm going to do is talk about 9 of them to give you a little bit more detail, show you some examples, and then 3 of my colleagues, together with our guest speakers for the day, are going to deep dive into the world of healthier for longer, do no harm, and I'm choosing, which are going to form the narrative for the rest of the day. So the first megatrend to talk about is one that we've called experimental freedom, very much driven by the macro cultural trend of egocentrism. There is no real way to eat food other than with your mouth, of course. We're seeing flavors, cuisines, formats continue to mingle and meddle together. Sweet eaten with savoury and vice versa. Restaurants are no longer permanent, and the formality is very much out of the window. This is all about things like the next generation of fine dining, the maturing of the street food phase. Destination dining, fast, healthy fits into this space as well. The journeying of hybrids, we continue to see hybrids evolve, but in a slightly different way. And some other interesting ones as well that I'm going to talk you through just now. The first one to pick out is maturing street food. Street food has been a massive influence in this country and beyond for quite some years. But what's new? Well, we're seeing the sort of the influence mature in many cases, many cities around the world. Those cities that are looking to differentiate themselves based on their food and drink offer are increasingly providing establishments, undercover, semi-permanent street food locations, which are quite interesting. Here in London, like Mercato Metropolitano, Street Food Fest in Abu Dhabi, Matterhallen in Oslo, Torvehallen in Copenhagen, Queen Vic Market in Melbourne. A couple of years ago, we talked about this new phenomena, which was the time-out market in Lisbon, and it was really just starting to gain momentum then. And I thought I'd just bring to life in a short video what's happened there, because in 2016 in Lisbon, it was the most popular tourist attraction, 3.1 million visitors in 2016, and this is what it looks like today. They were planning one on Commercial Street in London, but the planning application was refused, so thank you, Hackney Council, for that. The next one to be opened is in mid-2018 in Miami, so a little further afield, but I'm sure it'll be well worth a visit. The next sub-trend I'd like to pick out is one that we've called fast and healthy, and the message here, I think from a consumer and also an industry perspective, we're seeing some signs of as well, is that fast can also be healthy, and it's very much establishing itself in the consumer psyche. So things like being able to reduce calories if you want to be able to up your protein intake, to be able to opt in and out of certain allergens. And we see that the momentum behind that only going to grow over the next few years. A couple of interesting examples. Those of you that live near Nottingham, I don't know if you have seen the Clean Cut Kitchen, but that very much looks like it's worth a visit. Brand new healthy eatery. It's about fast, lunchtime, take-out, food for now, or food for later. As a, I guess you might call it a second division town, if it's happening in Nottingham, it's happening everywhere. You'll yet to see it down in Exeter where I am. But then also coming to London, we've got By Chloe. Now that is a little bit more glitz and glamour. That's from LA. Vegetarian, vegan fast food concept called By Chloe. So look for the momentum behind this to continue to roll. And if you haven't seen By Chloe, here we go.
Hey guys, we are here at By Chloe in Los Angeles.
It is an incredible restaurant opened by vegan chef Chloe Coscarelli. She is amazing. She went on Cupcake Wars as a vegan and won. And then she went on and published some amazing cookbooks that are some of my favorite of all time, and then went ahead and opened By Chloe, first in New York and now here in Los Angeles. So let's go check it out.
The next one that I'd like to call out to you is one time only, and one time only really does equal experience. There's almost a limitless appeal from pop-ups, LTOs, for consumers, small independents and brands alike. Chefs, retailers know that they can get the right coverage that they need and almost create a frenzy around particular food concepts, flavor fusions and so on before their friends have tried it or indeed before they sell out. And 3 really lovely examples. Nectar and Stone pop-up, which is a great a dessert pop-up bar in Melbourne, well worth having a look at those guys online. Fervour, pop-up from Western Australia. They're taking the whole pop-up concept to different locations, doing it in the bush, doing it on the beach, featuring hyper-local ingredients. And then much closer to home, I don't know if anyone in the audience go to the Magnum Pleasure Bar? So the next sub-trend in this space we've called patisserie meets viennoiserie. This is a particular favourite, as some of my team will know, one that I keep banging on about quite a lot. And it's an interpretation of the hybrid trend, and very often when we talk about hybrid, it's very much about extremes, but this feels like an evolution in a much safer context, which is one of the reasons I really like it. So this is where flaky pastry or choux meets those really sort of rich, velvety creaminess of patisserie. We're seeing it in evidence very much in the US and Australia, and expect it to come to the UK very, very soon. 2 examples, Vive la Tarte on the left of the screen in San Francisco. The croissant there is absolutely incredible. Mocha coffee, blood orange, key lime. So just taking the regular croissant format and elevating it from a visual, taste and texture perspective. And also Union Fair there on Manhattan on the right. Also blending, this fits very nicely within this world of sort of hybriding. It's led us to a place where we can happily blend ingredients like we've never blended them before. So meat with vegetables in burgers, beans into sausages, tea with coffee, and also fruit juice with wine as well. In the burger and sausages case, this can be about lowering meat content, which I know is shock horror. It's all been about increasing meat content, but it's also about getting protein from a different source, perhaps having a lower impact on the environment. Products that are created to have a lower meat content, including vegetables, grains, and other proteins. So that's quite an interesting shift that we're seeing. Barbecue 2.0, barbecue food very much been at the fore for the last few years, and what we're seeing is that a new wave of barbecue pushing back on the traditionalists in terms of meats, seasonings, woods, and even cuisines. And some of the more progressive chefs and operators are starting to think about barbecue just as this really versatile cooking technique. It doesn't necessarily have to be affiliated to Americana and constrained by the institution that comes with that. Truth Barbecue in Brenham in Texas gets almost as much hype. This is the products on the top right-hand side of the screen for their massive beef ribs as they do baked potatoes stuffed with, in this case, chopped brisket, melted cheddar, sour cream and green onions, which I'm sure you can all agree looks absolutely delicious. You've got Leroy and Lewis with their stuffed quail mac and cheese there, top left. And bottom left, Granary Brew and Cure Vindaloo spiced brisket with Indian pickles and yogurt. So barbecue moving to a new space, and we expect that to continue. So the next mega trend is small batch beautiful. You heard about that in the video. It's driven by the mega trend, again, of egocentrism, and we're looking for, in this sort of fast-paced world of food and drink within which we live, for food with quality and crafted brilliance, and that's really what this mega trend is all about, and celebrating everything that goes with that. And a key sub-trend in this space is craft carbs, and we've seen a lot of demonization of carbs in the recent past, but we're seeing carbs slowly craft their way quite literally back into favor. This is not about cheap and cheerful carbs, it's about the luxurious edge, it's about elevating their position from midweek staples to craft bakery and kind of fine dining. Number of different things happening, sort of high-end, authentic pastas being made with sort of finely milled ancient grains, with delicious fillings. We're seeing handmade tacos. Caitlin and I were in Mexico City just a couple of weeks ago and seeing the way they're making tacos by hand and stamping them and making sort of personalizing them in a highly artisan way and heroing the production of that. And then, of course, we've got the craft bread baking and bread very much back in full swing. So 21st century carbs is very much about a touch of refinement. A couple of examples, Padella, not too far from here, and their sister restaurant, Trullo, which is all about a pasta specialist restaurant, very, very good in Borough Market, not too far from here, worth checking out. And then a super bakery, and we've seen many bakeries like this in different parts of the world, called The Mill in San Francisco. They also have a superb toast menu as well. And just to bring that to life for you, we've got an interview with Josie Baker, aptly named, from The Mill.
I started baking bread at home because a friend swung by my house. He happened to be carrying a little bit of sourdough starter with him. He left a little lump with me as a gift and scribbled down some instructions, and a few days later I tried baking. I also wanted to find a new hobby that would keep me still. So it kind of satisfied all of these desires I was having that I had no idea that bread was going to be it. And bread was like that silver bullet. Well, I wanted to, and I still really enjoy engaging in the physical act of making bread. You know, feeling the dough in my hands. But there are certain phases in the bread making process where you really, the only thing you can do is wait. And you just can't rush it. You can't hurry it up. You can't make it go faster. Especially these days, man, everybody's rushing around all the time, and everything is about doing things faster and doing more of them and packing it all in, and so all of a sudden I'm engaged in this process, this craft, where if you want to make it good, you have to not rush it. At the very beginning, I set out with the goal of never letting speed or ease or profit win out over the quality of the bread.
I think everybody needs a mate that walks around with some sourdough starter in their bag, I think. But a really, really lovely story, and really bringing that sort of craft carbs thing to life. Also sitting within this mega trend is sipping spirits, and we're in an age where it's not so much about how much alcohol you consume, but what you consume. And therefore, operators, brands are focusing much more on savouring and sipping. A couple of great examples there. Tarquin's British Gin with blackberry and Cornish honey. I had some on my holiday, and it is rather good. So definitely worth a try there. So savouring and sipping spirits, perhaps, unless you were hardcore, something that you wouldn't have done in the past. The next one to pull out here is regional pride, and there's undoubtedly uncertainty in the globe and within our country, and we see nationalism rise, not only socially but also within food and drink. So this is very much the time to be supporting local and regional farmers and producers, putting money back into local food communities, saving the knowledge of where our food and drink is coming from. And a couple of really nice examples. Cornucopia from Cornwall was the UK's first pasty heritage centre. It's a really, really nice story, really celebrating the contribution that Cornwall, in this case, brings to the food and drink industry. And then the other side of the pond, a chef called Neffy Craig, and those of you that are interested in regional American cuisine, definitely worth Googling his work. He's the founder of the Native American Culinary Association, and he's written and documented a lot about Native American foods, doing some really, really interesting work. Dairy is also in focus, spotlight very much on grass to glass, single origins, specific health claims, down to downright delicious there on the bottom right-hand side with the miso butter. Really interesting business on the top right. The Little Big Dairy Company from Australia, sustainably produced milk from 800 cows, all with names, apparently. Born and raised on the farm, the milk is traceable down to every single cow, which is quite interesting, so sort of micro-traceability there. And whilst we're talking about this particular megatrend, this fits very nicely, is the art of butchery. And you can have grocerants, which we'll talk about later on, so you can definitely have butcherants, which is butchers come restaurants. So this is very much heroing the art of butchery. The farmers, the butchers, the stories, the cuts that go with that. And this is something that we saw start to emerge a couple of years ago, but it's really gaining momentum. Obviously, butcherants are part of that, but it's heroing meat and where it comes from, the cuts and the producers and so on. Kensington Quarter's a lovely example of that in Philadelphia. You walk in, the first thing you see is the butchery counter, then you move into the eatery, so it's very much in your face what it is that you're getting into. Temper, not too far from here. I was in there with a friend a few months ago, and the chefs were walking through holding pig carcasses, lamb carcasses, so again, very much bringing that to the fore. And also Blend in Paris, which is all about heroing the changing blend of beef for the perfect burger. So again, heroing butchery. The next megatrend is treasured time, driven by the macro cultural trend of who to trust. So good things, as they say, come to those who wait, and I think we're all aware of that, and there's never a truer saying of at the moment in food and drink. So this is all about celebrating the time, the love, the care, and the attention that goes into particular food. So sub-trends here, things like aging, home growing still, we're seeing a significant resurge in French influence, historical eats. But a few that I would like to feature for you. Protecting heritage, so it's not only farmers that are looking, it's not only us that's looking to innovate, but also farmers as well. They're looking back in time to breeds and animals, vegetables that in some cases only just exist. They're choosing breeds with plenty of flavour that perhaps take a little longer to grow, but it's well worth the wait in terms of the flavour delivery and in some cases textures as well. The Heritage Food Company, there on the right, doing a really good job of that, worth having a look at. And also Wilson & Market, which is a restaurant in Melbourne that we spotted recently, who are featuring the Summer Lad chicken, which is selected for table between 10 and 14 weeks. And those of you involved on the technical side will know that that's a lot longer than some of the birds that come to table normally within retail. So you've got that intermuscular fat that develops, the nutrient-dense meat, and obviously the outstanding flavour and texture as well. I mentioned French influence, and that comes through in the viennoiserie meets patisserie, but exists in a more holistic sense as well, and hence the reason for the mention. French patisserie and French food in general is built on a foundation of precision and skill, where you need to know the techniques as your foundation, but what we're seeing is contemporary chefs that are getting into that, learning it, but then fusing that with different cuisines and ingredients in various parts of the world. So Roux de Choux is a really nice example from Jaipur in Western India, which is all about doing really interesting, unusual things with choux pastry. And also Mademoiselle Madeleine in France, this one is in particular, but they're not only looking at madeleines from a sweet but also a savoury perspective and introducing lots of different cuisines there as well. Then we've got nano-specialism. This is something that regressed a little bit over the last couple of years, but it's definitely back with a vengeance. Now is the time to be a specialist, making your food shine. In terms of what's different, well, it's moved beyond just having a signature dish, and it's more about heroing a particular ingredient. So some of the nano-specialists that we're seeing come through are just taking the egg as an example. You've got the hollandaise, the poached egg, the ham hock there on the left-hand side, avocado, obviously, and I'll show you a video on that in a second. And then a restaurant in Shibuya in Tokyo called Out, and they literally just serve truffle pasta. So have a look at this.
We don't think avocado is actually a trend at all. I think avocado is here to stay. And the way we're approaching this is that we are building a healthy fast food.
Next generation avocado on toast. Looks pretty cool. We all thought avocado on toast was dying out, but it appears that that is not the case. The next mega trend, stirring the senses. I think we should have called this one taking the senses and giving them a damn good shake-up, I think, because that's what this is all about. It's all about sensory stimulation, taking the sensorial experience around food and drink to the next level. And one of the sub-trends within this particular space is eatertainment, and the fact that eating and drinking out is an immersive, increasingly becoming an immersive experience. Almost consumers are coming to expect some kind of entertainment whilst eating. And we've seen the speakeasies, the hidden menus, some really interesting technological things happening in various parts of the world to take the food experience to the next level. But what we're seeing is that starting to filter out now into a slightly more accessible context. Mirage, I'll show you a video on that in a second, have launched the world's first augmented reality cocktail menu at City Social. And a really good example is the Starbucks Roastery Reserve in Seattle. It's obviously a coffee-centric environment with a roastery at its heart. It's about food, it's about coffee-based cocktails featuring different extraction methods, as well as a lifestyle store and a feast for the imagination and the inquiring mind. Look out for one in Milan, I think, next year. So another example how we're taking sort of eatertainment to a more of a mass market.
My name is Jamie Jones. I'm the Group Executive Bar Manager for The Social Company. The concept behind Mirage, our new cocktail menu at City Social, was to use augmented reality to bring our cocktails to life. You simply need to download our free app, and then when your drink arrives at your table on its specific coaster, point your phone at the coaster and sit back and enjoy the show.
The next one to talk about is small but powerful. We're seeing this particularly gaining momentum. So this is about concentration and intensity of flavours, very much the name of the game here. This is not about wishy-washy flavours. We're seeing shots packed with goodness that are in some cases rivaling sort of longer smoothie drinks. We've got the wheatgrass shot there from Urban Remedy in Indonesia, and Restaurant Maya that we spotted recently in Brazil, a highly concentrated consommé. We're not falling out of our love with bubbles, which I'm sure you'll be delighted to hear, ladies in particular. The Prosecco is not going away, but we're looking for alternatives here, like, oh no, I hear you cry, Lambrusco is coming back into fashion. No longer that sort of sticky, sweet 80s drink, but it's more sophisticated, it's drier, it's lighter, it's more Moorish. Also things like carbonated cold brew and also hard sodas as well. If we look at sensory appeal itself, its presence in the world of food and drink continues to grow. It's not something we're seeing going away. In fact, our food is becoming more sensory stimulating. I think this is something for us all to consider. It's happening particularly out of home, but we also see it in evidence in retail as well and on the high street. So textural contrast, either soft, cooked, raw, crisp, thick, jelly, smooth, hot and cold, also playing a role here as well, particularly on the example on the left-hand side there, where you've got an ice cream sandwich rather than being sandwiched by a cookie, but being sandwiched by a warm donut, which is quite interestingly as well. And the hoji cha, something we've spotted as part of our work in Asia Pacific, a Frappuccino, Starbucks Frappuccino there with Earl Grey jelly. Cold is very much hot. in the world of food and drink, and we're seeing sort of ice very much back in the fray. All things cold, really, from gigantic ice cubes that are almost too large for your cocktail glass, to experimental soft serve, the shaved ice cream scrolls, ice cream sandwiches, cakes, all pushing the boundaries in terms of flavour. The champagne and blackberry snow there on the left-hand side. And actually what's quite a tame example from the eccentric world of soft serve, you've got a birthday cake soft serve on the right from Sweet Jesus in Canada. Also worth mention in this particular megatrend is the world of sour. It's quite interesting that our palates are beginning to tartan up a little bit in the sort of post-sugar world. And the next taste that has great appeal, or it appears to be, is sour, quite often associated with health through things like kombucha, pre and probiotics. But one of the things is we're starting to see sour move into other foods and drinks as well, sour beer. Quite an interesting one, a collaboration between Iron Brew and a Belgian beer. Two of the greatest things in life, as he says, being half Scottish, Iron Brew and beer. So quite an interesting combination there as well. The mega trend of Insta fun, and you saw this in the video, this is really all about visual and visual appeal. And if your food and drink doesn't have visual appeal, if it can't enhance social status, then it's out. It has to look good, even more so than ever before. Food's always been about visual, but it is the case even more so today. So it is about natural colour, it is about those finishing flourishes, non-edible carriers as well, because they help elevate and provide a stage for the food as well. So we've got Insta food adventures. On one hand, you've got restaurants that are telling you that you can't take photographs, and then I don't know if anyone's been to Dirty Bones recently, which is quite interesting. They're offering diners an Instagram kit, so completely the other end of the spectrum. You get a tripod, a selfie stick, clip-on lens, LED lights, portable chargers, etc., and that's on the right-hand side of the screen. Naturally colourful, so eye-catching is very much, as we've said, the name of the game with food and drink at the moment, those bold colours. Pure black through to extreme untainted whites. I absolutely love the goth ice cream there from Little Damage. I think that looks very, very good. And pure blue, the bottom left-hand side, multicoloured wine. As pardon me whilst I blaspheme, but it's not just about red and white anymore, but also different colours. Mixing red and white wines, grape pigment and some natural colours and a little bit of sweetener, and you've got multicoloured wine there on the bottom left-hand side. Finishing flourishes, that is all about the artful decoration of our food. Food has obviously always been about garnishing, finishing, but even more so today, whether we're seeing the example there from Rockpool, the 3 milk cake with dried raspberries, pistachio and almond. An example much closer to home, 26 grains here in London and their breakfast porridges. As you can see, it's not just about the food itself, but how artfully it is presented. Sizing it up, also worth a mention. It's not a new one, but one that isn't going away. And also, it's almost being propelled by the Insta world within which we live, because anything that is extremely small or extremely large is Insta-worthy. The next one is food hugs. This is a great one. Who doesn't want that kind of soothing, warming, comforting food hug, but particularly in the geopolitical world within which we live. So it doesn't really matter where these food hugs come from. They can come from childhood. It can be one that you borrow from somewhere else. So it is about looking back. As I've said, the world is in a bit of turmoil. So this is about fun foods and drinks from our childhood, bringing back happy memories. This is obviously not a new thing. But one, as we look forward and to some of the uncertainty that is perhaps to come, one that will definitely remain in the fray. So it is bringing some historical foods, recipes and so on back to life, a little bit of contemporary interpretation there as well. So chocolate pancakes interpreted there into the Nuts About Nutella pancake dessert burger there on the left-hand side. So that all they've done, they've made that handheld They've adapted the recipe slightly to bring it into a modern age, and then the Black Forest Gatto there with the contemporary twist of the mushrooms on the meringue mushrooms. Nostalgia can also be borrowed as well. So obviously we live in a very diverse country. We've got our own comfort foods, but we can also borrow them from other people, other places, other times. So you don't have to have experienced the nostalgia for the first time yourself. You can borrow it from somewhere else, and things like Hygge is a really good example from the Nordics, and also from the Nordics is fika, the time in the day where everyone stops for coffee and cake. Also within this particular mega trend, we've got home cooked food, but Generation Z style. So we've got a younger generation now who want to engage with food. They've been inspired by the kits that have been available, and also the amount of social content that there is. So sorted food. The example on the bottom left, 1.5 million subscribers, inspiring and simplifying and helping young people to cook and engage with food. Then you've got Meal Prep Society from the US, which is encouraging people through video and social to prep meals in advance at the weekend, put them in the fridge so that they're there for you to take out during the course of the week. And of course, whilst we talk comfort, we've got to talk eggs. But eggs, not just in a breakfast context. We're seeing lots more egg on menus in general. But the egg shop back there, sunny side up, fried chicken, sesame rice, and avocado there on the left-hand side. Or slightly more indulgent, the steak béarnaise, 55 degrees from Yoke, London, which looks absolutely delicious. But anyone fancy sharing an egg? Good. The penultimate mega trend is so what is true. So this is very much driven about who to trust. Some of the sub-trends we see in this space are about getting to the nth level of detail, DNA diets for you, kids teaching kids, governments taking control, the new humble chef, fact-based health, which we're going to hear a lot more about during the course of today. This is about truth, honesty and genuineness, I guess. Sub-trend here, I need to know the detail. Complete transparency, very much the order of the day. And two examples on the screen, grassroots, farmer co-op and provenance. Blockchain technology is very much revolutionizing transparency. And again, some of you in the room, I know, will be aware of this, but this is helping both operators, producers, and consumers to get ultimate transparency of where their food comes from. And I know some of you in the room are engaging with provenance in particular, but if that's of interest to you, well worth having a look at. Kids teaching kids. So as we said, we've got these late millennials, these Gen Zers that are wanting to get back into the kitchen. And what we're seeing is lots of examples of kids teaching kids. So on CBeebies, you'll find Tilly Ramsey showing recipes, talking about their life as a family, trying to educate and do their piece. You've then got the kid chef, Eleanor, who won the Team Chopped Challenge in the US. And again, who's getting out there on a social presence in schools and so on and teaching kids and engaging with them in a level and a language that they understand. And we've got the humble chef. I'm sure chef isn't quite so humble today, the prospect of feeding 300 foodies. But generally, we're seeing a more humble chef in the world, perhaps one that isn't quite so much about being on the TV and books and so on, perhaps one that's a little more mysterious than ever. Many of them appear to be like professors rather than superstars, but all introducing these sort of mind-altering dishes. Chefs are now collaborating more, they're talking, they're sharing recipes and experiences, perhaps pushing their team to the fore so no one person is in charge. So a new breed of chef starting to come through as well. And then what I want to talk about is generosity to others. Driven by the macro-cultural trend selflessness, we heard in the video about paying it forward, the current buzz phrase at the moment. So millennials and Gen Z are inspired by companies that want to pay it forward, give back in some way, not only just to holistic charity donations, but really make a difference at a local and community level. Sharing is caring in a holistic sense as well. So generosity to others can just be about sharing time and space. So we've talked a lot about sharing food in the past, and that's most definitely not going away. So that could be about sharing a physical space or a meal experience, eating with the hands, very much still in play. But one of the key points here, I know some of you that work in the branded space are very good at this as well, is altruism. And there's there's this unspoken expectation for brands and businesses to give something back to the world. A couple of really nice examples. Roller Waller supports the One Feeds Two, providing school meals in the UK, hundreds of thousands of school meals for some of the kids that are living in poverty in the UK, and also the Cook for Syria campaign, which I think speaks for itself, which is a framework where to allow people to do bake sales, cook-offs, supper clubs, sell the book, all to help the 8 million or so kids that have been displaced through the conflict in Syria. And the last one to talk about is community. And we see lots and lots of evidence of communities getting together at a local level to make a difference. The Good Luck Club in Australia is quite an interesting one, where rather than getting together with your mates down the pub, you literally bring some ingredients together, get together around a stove, have a catch-up and a beer, but it's all around food. And the other one that I'd like to bring to life for you is a program called Incredible Edibles. Has anyone heard of Incredible Edibles? Well, it's an initiative that started in Todmorden, up in the north of the UK, and I co-presented with Mary Clear. I found her truly inspirational in terms of the movement that she had started. It's a movement that now spread across the UK, Europe, and to different parts of the world. So I'll let her tell you a little bit about Incredible Edibles.
So my name is Mary Clear, and I'm about 56 or 55, but I think I might be 56. I feel 13 on a good day. I've recently lost my job as a community development worker, but actually I'm busier now than when I ever was working. We're growing vegetables in public spaces, and it's for anybody to help themselves to. So we started off by choosing areas that were dirty and unloved. We'd already got a little herb garden opposite the cricket club, and then we put herbs on the railway station so you could get off the train and pick herbs. Then we built beds for the firemen and police beds for the policemen. You know, the odd bus stop and car park, just slipping in a little brassica here and there. And one of my girls, Emily, came up with the name Incredible Edible because we wanted a doing word, and eating, we love it. We thought, how could you join in this new thing? If you eat, you're in. There's a whole generation who've no idea what vegetables look like. 40-year-old women have said to me, bloody hell, I didn't know that grew like that. Before Incredible Edible, I had a rose garden. I adore flowers, I adore roses. So my front garden was a riot of colour. I stripped out all my flowers, and my husband built some little beds, which is nice because there's only so many roses a woman can make jam of. And I grow vegetables how I like. I buy a packet that I like the colour of, and I might read the instructions, I might not, and I stick them in. And I grow them in any old way, and it works. And what Incredible Edibles taught me, a really fantastic thing, is how to give up having things. So I might have my eye on a gorgeous crop of rocket or tomatoes, and I go out and someone's taken them. And I just feel a little bit of crossness rising up in me, and I go, I've given somebody a gift, somebody who's a complete stranger. So it's for anybody to help themselves to. There's grannies picking, little children picking. It's lovely. People know that it's for them. I'm not very good at putting the climate change thing into words. What I'm worried about is the price of food. And we're trying to just make some little changes in our town so we'll be a stronger, more resilient town.
I think quite a sobering point to end the introduction of the food and drink mega trends, generosity to others, one that we're seeing a real momentum behind. And we've got a generation of people that are now buying food and drink that really care. And I think that's an important watch out for all of us in the room. And I just wanted to summarise. Obviously, we've got the trends framework, but if I were to just take some bullet points out, most definitely look out for the return of nostalgia and comfort as the UK and the world around us moves into more of a turbulent time. Cost of living will undoubtedly increase. We're starting to crave connection more than ever before, both socially and culturally, but also within food and drink. So that's about people and places and time and creation of memories as well. We should make no mistake that technology is the biggest enabler of change that we're seeing at the moment. Many of the things that I've talked about and will continue to talk about through the rest of the day have been enabled by tech. Millennials, most definitely the most powerful consumer group. Disruptive rule breaking is the norm and not the exception, both in and out of home. Vegetable-based eating gaining real momentum. We'll hear more about that later on. And delicious, enjoyable health is becoming the norm. As last year, trends are moving faster than ever before. We've done quite a lot of retrospective trends mapping recently. And to see the speed within which trends are being adopted is absolutely phenomenal. Sharing is most definitely giving and caring. And the fragile ecosystem that is our world is most definitely back in focus. And as I say, there is a generation of people that now care about that at a national and global level. So we expect that to continue to rise on the agenda. So those are the 9 that I've covered. The team are going to cover 3 in more detail, which is all about choosing, health and doing no harm. And our great guest speakers are going to bring some of those to life for us. So I now put my other hat on and introduce our first guest speaker, who's going to come on stage and bring the social and cultural trends to life for us. Someone who has become almost our collaborator when it comes to understanding the why behind social and cultural trends. I'm going to hand over to Amelia Boothman, Strategy Director from the brand agency 1HQ. Amelia.